Hello, hello. Welcome back to the channel if you are a regular, and if you are fresh meat, to my regulars, you know the drill. What do we do around here with the fresh meat? Show the newcomers to the front row so that we may all judge them accordingly. Now then, what are we up to today? Oh Lord, Lordy, Lordy, Lord. Do your eyes deceive you? No, they do not. We are in fact filming our first Q&A. Really though? Baby's first Q&A. Dios mío, yes. Yes, indeed. I have toyed with this idea several times over the course of a few years. I did actually put my feelers out on YouTube. I can't remember if it was in a vlog video or an art video, but several months back, I asked my YouTube audience about a Q&A session, but they weren't necessarily entranced by the idea. I only received a couple of questions, which I went ahead and I answered in subsequent videos. However, my Patreon patrons, my lovely, delicious truffles over there, were smitten with the idea of a dedicated Q&A, so that's what we're doing today. Without further ado, let's get to the Q&A. I will be answering anywhere from 5 to 10 questions. Now today we have 4 questions from 4 different people. However, there's a little bit of a caveat because these questions include sub-questions. So depending on how you look at it, this is more than 10 questions, but give or take 5 to 10 questions is what we will be doing, and I will attempt, listen to me, from the bottom of my little black sequined heart, I will attempt to not wax poetic about any particular question for the sake of brevity. But if I ramble on 1 or 2 questions, which I have a tendency to do, please, I ask that you grant me half an ounce of forgiveness. Yes? Yes? All right, let's go. First off, we are going to begin with a question from the wonderful witch of the UK woods. I don't know if she actually lives in the woods, but in any case, Helen K. asks, who is my fashion inspiration and who are some of my favorite artists? And I chose to start with this question for one very simple reason. This is one of those damn questions that in answering could easily result in the aforementioned waxing poetic. So I'm going to get this one out of the way now, and I'm going to keep each sub-question to 3 to 4 selections. Okay? So, fashion designers: John Galliano, Thierry Mugler, Alex Perry, and Christopher John Rogers. Now notice I kept this to individuals rather than fashion houses, because fashion houses is an entirely different story. I can go off on 10 tangents as far as fashion houses are concerned. But John Galliano, Thierry Mugler, Alex Perry, and Christopher John Rogers. John Galliano was such a visionary and eclectic rebel back in the day. He is one of those artistic geniuses whose style and demeanor just would not fly in today's oversensitive culture. But if you take a look at his work from the early 2000s for the House of Dior in particular, you'll get a feel for his vibe. So I think I'm going to insert some photographs as I'm talking about these designers so that you get an idea of why I'm so drawn to them and why I like them. John Galliano is just, oh God, I love that man. His designs are flamboyant, they're opulent, irreverent, yet elegant. It's just everything I love rolled into one. He is incredible. Plus, he has a great voice. If you look up any of his interviews, he sounds every bit a cliche aristocratic vampire from Europe, and I live for it. Old school European accent, just this voice, it's just so, he sounds like a creature. Oh, look up an interview and you'll see what I mean. He's just so elegant and just delicious. He has kind of a weird, look it up. He's a talented, elegant man, definitely my fashion boyfriend. I own 2 of his fragrances, and one of them is absolutely one of my favorites. It's called Galliano by Galliano, and it smells like, this is the only way that I can describe this perfume, and this is, every time I describe it this way and people smell it, they agree. So it's kind of a universal description. It smells like the hermetically sealed boudoir of a jazz age Parisian courtesan. So a fancy flapper hooker, essentially. Smoky, flowers, incensey, just fabulous. Next, Thierry Mugler. Okay, so I just wanted to insert, this is future me, by the way, editing me. I just wanted to insert because inevitably I will have that one individual that always pops in to correct, quote unquote, correct my pronunciation. It is not Mugler, and I know that. It is Mugler. But person who corrects, if you're one of those people, please take the time to watch any of my videos and you will know that that is just one of my things. I mispronounce or I pronounce things differently, just in one video. Envelope could be envelope 1 second, envelope the next. Houses could be houses 1 second or houses the next. I do that. In fact, in this video, I say Mugler, and I'm pretty sure I say Mugler as well. Just get over yourself. Stop correcting people. Go do something important with your time. Thierry Mugler is just the god of the 80s and early 90s. And when I say early 90s, I mean the fantastic remnants of the 80s, not Spice Girl 90s, not that kind of 90s, not the Christina Aguileras and the Britney Spears. That's not fashion to me at all. I'm talking early 90s, so that bleeding of the late 80s and the early 90s. Shoulder pads, structure, drama. If the soap opera Dynasty was about vampires, they would all rock Thierry Mugler garments. No question. He is also, or rather was, an amazing fragrance designer. He no longer works directly with the fragrance company that bears his name. I believe that's the case now. And that's super unfortunate if it is true, because I own several Mugler fragrances, Alien being my favorite. It sits on my desk. I see it every single day. His bottles are some of the coolest bottles I've ever seen. Alien is gorgeous. It's purple and gold, sharp, spiky, beautiful, dark. And she smells like a proper, dark, elegant, seductive creature of the night, which are all the things I aspire to be. Plus, he had James Brown perform at one of his fashion shows. I mean, you cannot get cooler than that. Sassy Uncle James is the funkiest. He's a bit of a son of a bitch, but he's a product of another time. I love him to shreds. Just Thierry Mugler. Exuberant, expensive, just beautiful all the way around. Next, Alex Perry. Just one word to describe Alex Perry. Structure. Structure, structure, structure. I can't even say it. Structure, structure, structure. In the vein of Thierry Mugler, he's very similar in that sense. They're all about structure and tailoring, but he's more modern. He's a little bit younger than Galliano and Thierry Mugler, so I think so. So that's probably why his clothing is a little bit more modern, and he's definitely more active today than the other two. But he's not young. I mean, he's not 20. He's pushing 60. But I swear, men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are just at designing fabulous women's clothes. I don't know what it is, but it's incredible, and I love them. Bless the gays. I can't tell you how many times I have drowned in my own drool looking at Alex Perry's designs. Just pointiness, shoulder pads, structure, sequins, drama. A dark disco dream, basically. He's just divine. Finally comes another creature from on high, another divine being, Christopher John Rogers. Now, this guy is a baby. I believe he's in his mid to late 20s, maybe his 30s. I don't know, but in the echelon, the upper echelon of fashion designers, he's one of the youngest. So he's absolutely last on the list, but not least. He is all about color and drama. He understands color and graphic so well. He's talented. I will be watching his collections for a long time, fainting and fawning over his designs. Like I said, he's just divine, and he's just a wonderfully sassy little creature. All four of these designers, you can see their influence in my drawing with the sequins and the shoulders and the structure. It's just, fashion is huge in my life, and that's why I've spent so long talking about it. Now, artists. I'll keep this one quick because I spent a long time rambling about fashion design. Now, as a former art history major who wanted to study art and to teach art, I could, as you can imagine, go on forever about art. So I'm going to list 4 artists as well. the fashion illustrator from the 20s, Urte. Amazing. From the 80s, we have Patrick Nagel. Oh, amazing. Also from the 80s-ish, Jean-Michel Basquiat and Andy Warhol. Those would be my top 4. And as you can see, my sensibilities do certainly tend to lean more modern and contemporary as opposed to classical. 100%. If we were going to dive way, way, way back in history, my preferences are going to be absolutely the art and style of ancient Egypt and of South America. There's just something about sun-worshipping cultures. They get the fashion, the jewelry, the art just right. I'm all about it. The Mayans, all their facial jewelry, the tattoos, the Egyptians with their just beautiful people all around. Fast forward to the future, I would say in general, my favorite period of art and design, which Arte, Patrick Nagel, you'll see the influences here, would definitely be the Art Deco period. So the Art Deco period and the Art Deco revival of the 70s, that kind of sexy confluence of Art Deco and gaudy new technology of the 70s. It's disco, baby. It's what I like. So next question comes in from my sweet little morsel, Miranda, and she asks 2 things. What would I do if I was not an artist, and is there anything professionally that I would like to try? Ooh, baby, baby. Oh, baby, baby. If you don't understand that reference, it's fine. Just keep it moving. But seriously, ooh, baby, this is a good question. This is a great question. My favorite question of the day, I think. If I was not an artist, there is one line of work that fascinates me even above, say, which would come as no shock to you, shoe designing. I think I would like to be a shoe designer. That would be fun. But, and now some of you, when I make the grand reveal of this, if I wasn't an artist, what would I choose? Career path. Some of you are going to go, huh? Well, some of you who have been here for a while and who kind of have a good feel of me as a person, you'll understand this. You're going to go, aha, yes, of course. That makes all the sense in the world. So aside from shoe designing, I would be a perfumer. Good Lord, this is a good question. Thank you, Miranda. So why would I choose perfumer over shoe design? Now, I would, okay. Girl, Miranda, if you're watching this video, you are cracking my skull over this question because realistically, I would be much better at shoe design than as a perfumer because I'm not a chemist. I don't think technically. But in Fantasyland, if I did have scientific skill, I would love to learn about the science of fragrance. Fragrance on the molecular level. I would love to work for an opulent perfume house, traveling, sourcing materials, designing fragrances, and or designing the bottles and the marketing. Breaking down fragrance to a molecular level, it blows my mind. It's all about chemistry, psychology, and escapism, which is just plain fascinating to me. Now to the second part of the question, which is there something professionally that I would like to try? I'm not sure if this qualifies as part of this question or if this is more, if I wasn't an artist, what would I do? But this would require me being an artist. I think I would like to try. It's not related to actual physical drawing necessarily, but I would love to give styling a try. So styling clothing and photo shoot sets. I think that would be fantastic. That would be a lot of fun. Next up, the classy Ms., or is it Mrs.? I don't know. I don't know the title, so forgive me, mujer. I apologize, but let me take a sip of my tea. The classy Ms. Casey asks, basically, this is not a verbatim question, but essentially she asks, why am I spooky? Specifically, why am I interested in skulls and vampires and the like? Now, this is an incredibly loaded question, and I will do my best to answer this as succinctly as possible, which I already feel in my bones isn't going to be possible, but here goes. My affinity for skulls, I suppose it's twofold. I've got 2 reasons for this. One is entirely superficial, and the other reason is not necessarily superficial, but it is definitely a cliche reason. The first reason comes down to basic aesthetics. Skulls are just pleasing to look at. Culturally, skulls have been utilized in ingenious ways for thousands of years. Spirituality isn't necessarily my jam in this context, but aesthetically, if you look at Indonesia, for instance, you will find their outdoor burial grounds to be just some of the most beautifully exotic things you'll ever see, at least if you're anything like me. Down in the jungles, they have the skulls. Out in the foliage, everything is green and lush and beautiful, and the skulls take on this natural patina. They become mossy and just beautiful, and I think it's just one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. All natural, beautiful. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, here come my Catholics, my beloved, ostentatious, gaudy, scary Catholics. European churches. Take a look at European churches. You can look at the catacombs of Paris, of course, but there are also European churches, Eastern European churches usually, that utilize bones as part of the decor. They are a reminder of our humanity, our mortality, and all of that good stuff. But again, it's not about spirituality for me, it's about the aesthetics. But if you take a look at these churches, these charnel houses, ossuaries, they're just absolute gorgeousness. They're spooky, but they're classy. They're not gothy, scary in that tawdry kind of Hot Topic Party City kind of way. This is the kind of spooky class that I like, which if you look at my apartment is a surprise because everything in here is pink and glittery and, but in a fantasy world, I like that kind of classy spook. And that's why I like skulls. Again, that's the superficial reason. Now, the second reason is going to be the typical memento mori reasoning, which is skulls are a constant reminder that you need to just have fun while you can. That's it. You get one life. Try to enjoy it. Vampires. She asked about vampires. Now, as the desert's resident disco-loving vampire, this question absolutely needs to be addressed, yeah? So let's do it. The vampire thing is fairly simple, at least in my mind. Dracula by Bram Stoker happens to be one of my favorite classic novels, and I appreciate just things that go bump in the night, right? I'm not a fan of gore, people getting shredded to pieces. That's not, no, I don't do that. However, psychological horror is my favorite. It's uncomfortable and it's fun, right? Most people do not realize that Bram Stoker is not one of these gory, I'm going to rip you to shreds vampire novels. It is actually mostly psychological. The book has kind of a slow burning kind of a horror to it. Most of the book is all about purchasing real estate, believe it or not, which is why a lot of people don't like the book. But if you really get down to it, it's scary as hell. It is a quiet, slow burner of a horror novel. It's terrifying. I am not drawn to the romanticized, sexy Hollywood vampires. In fact, I think those are gross. If you dig through regional folklore, the myth of the vampire is always leaning heavily towards the sinister, the unnatural, in the sense that the creatures are, in fact, creatures, not sexy, mopey, Anne Ricey, or Twilighty cutie patooties. I'm not into that kind of vampire. What makes most vampires so terrifying is that while they retain a bit of their humanity in their physical form, and in some cases, they retain a little bit of their humanity in their soul, it's always a constant battle. They just want to be left alone and go about their business with people who either understand them or appreciate them. No nonsense. They just want to live their life, constantly straddling two different worlds, and they just want to enjoy. They want to enjoy their unconventional life. Now, does this sound a bit familiar to you? Yeah, hi, hello, have we met? I am a bit of a hermity loner. I have those tendencies. However, I will happily and openly give all of my affection to those who appreciate me and what I'm all about. I cannot be bothered to care about anyone else, especially if they are gossips, drama mongers, generally horrible people. I have no time, no desire to deal with problematic individuals. I don't like to fight. I don't like to argue. I don't like to waste my time. I love good, honest people. You could be the most boring person in the world, but if you're a sweetheart, baby, I will protect you with everything I have. Doesn't matter. As long as you're a good, honest person, we're going to get along. Now, those people, of course, are few and far between, but they are the only people that I can be bothered to care about. So, vampires. We live alone. We like to do our own thing. We like to lurk in the shadows. We can be a little bit scary, but we just want to live our life. And if you respect us, we respect you. That's the gist of it, right? So thank you to those of you who leave your blood donations in your mailboxes for me to collect on my night walks. I do appreciate it. Finally, we are going to come to Yummy Ms. Minnie. And her question is, what are my favorite movies and what kind of music do I listen to? Movies. This is going to be a super quick one because I'm not a movie person. I don't hate movies. I simply do not watch a ton of movies, and I despise going to the movie theater. I do watch an ungodly amount of documentaries. I love documentaries. But movies, I can't answer that question. Sorry, baby, but I can't answer it just because I when I do watch the occasional movie, it's just, I don't really have a favorite. I will, let's see, let me throw you a little crumb. What can I, let's see, crumb tossing. Genres. I suppose I can tell you what genres of movies I do prefer to watch when I do watch movies. So I like mob movies because I just enjoy the mafia. The mob in general just fascinates me. And The Godfather, The Godfather is a great movie. So mobster films and, I don't know, James Bond films. Spy films, the swanky, over-the-top, retro fabulous crime films. Historical dramas are fun too. Think like Dangerous Liaisons. Dangerous Liaisons is a good one. Just period dramas, I suppose. Big dress-up, sexy, over-the-top films like that. Amadeus is good too. Apocalypto, that one's good too. Historical dramas. I like that. Oh my God, editing me here. I'm watching this back, inserting the audio, and I cannot believe that this movie question was supposed to be a quick one, but I'm so dingussy, and then I completely forgot to mention a movie that I actually do like quite a bit. I've watched it several times over the years, and it's one movie that people make fun of me for constantly because I like it, but it's a good one. And that is going to be Ever After. I'm going to insert the cover of it here. It's a movie from the 90s. Drew Barrymore and Angelica Houston. Come on, Angelica Houston. This movie is so cute. It is just, I love it. People make fun of me for it all the time, but it's a good one. Back to the video. Music, like fashion, is something that I can easily wax poetic about. Truthfully, I listen to a bit of everything with the exception of two genres: black or death metal and punk rock. I cannot deal with either of those two. Now, a little disclaimer though is that I do enjoy metal shows. I have a couple of friends who have dragged me to black metal shows, death metal shows, and they're fun. I do enjoy going to the concerts, but aside from that, I cannot deal with the sound of trolls banging endlessly on pots and pans, and I can't stand the sound of unwashed adults screaming into microphones wearing too many, what do they wear, safety pins, and crashing into each other, the mosh pits or whatever the hell. I can't. I will not. I refuse. just to give you an idea of how my mind works. Today, for instance, I was listening to, I'm trying to think back from the time I got up to the time I sat down to film this voiceover. Today I was listening to, and this is pretty typical, 70s soul, a little bit of 30s jazz. I listened to a couple of new romantic and dark wave songs. And I was on a Sade thing today. But on any given day, I can listen to Sade, Cab Calloway, Lady Gaga, Cher, a disco mix, a soul mix, a sprinkling of obscure dark wave from the 80s and 90s. And I mean, hell, I like trance and house music as well. I'm all over the place. As long as it is not death metal, black metal, or punk rock, chances are I'm all about it. All right, my dears, that's it. We did it. Our first Q&A. By the time I edit this, I hope we were able to keep it under 30 minutes. 30, 35 minutes under that maybe, hopefully. What did you think? I hope that you gave this a listen, whether it was in one sitting or two. I hope that it did give you some insight into who I am and how/why I do what I do. You'll have to let me know down below if this Q&A format is something that you like, if it is something that you would like me to entertain again in the future. I will, of course, if we do this again, I am going to be deferring to my Patreon patrons for questions. And that's not to say that in the future I won't get questions from my YouTubers. Of course I will. It's just, as I said previously, when I've tried to do this, people weren't really interested here. So when my audience gets a little bigger here, we'll do a YouTube Q&A. And when I do live streams, then naturally, of course, I will be accepting questions from the YouTube audience. But until then, we are done for today. The artwork featured in this video is, of course, available for purchase, so do take a look down below. Everything you need to know will be down below. As usual, bookmark my website, become a patron if you'd like, or just hit that subscribe button and follow me on Instagram. Whatever you'd like to do. Have me however you'd like, honey. Now, shoo, be bad, be good. I don't give a damn which. Just come back in one piece. I will see you in the next one.
This marvelous dream.